Brenda Bell here for Brenda Bell Wellness, and today I'm going to show you a sequence that I learned from a teacher in India to help open up the hips and alleviate low back discomfort for people who sit a lot. And I think a lot of people are working from home, and last time I addressed the upper body, and now I'm going to show you some tips for your hips and your lower back. And this is great for many people, especially women. If you're menstruating and you have that low back stiffness, achy, dull feeling, this is a great sequence. And if you've been walking a lot or standing a lot, if you have arthritis, there's so many people who can benefit from this simple sequence that I'm going to show you. Now I have here, I'm sitting on a bolster. This is your typical yoga bolster, and I have a block, and I'm putting the block here. Now if you don't have a bolster and you have some blankets, especially cotton blankets are best because they tend to hold their shape and stay firm. So you take your blanket, I can't show you this way, and you just hold it like this and double fold it and take another one. And depending on your flexibility, you may want to use 3 blankets, and you double fold that blanket. But you know, this makes a pretty good base, very similar to the height of the bolster once your weight is compressing down upon it. So 2 nice cotton yoga blankets. Now these are older ones, and they tend to be thicker than the newer ones I've noticed. So I'm going to push those out of the way. So let's get started. It's also good if you have a timer. I use my cell phone a lot as a timer, but if you have another timer, you can use that. These positions are timed. I'm going to make short holdings just for the sake of keeping the video short, and you can work at your own pace at home. You sit on the block, you cross your ankles, a simple cross leg, and I'm going to lie back. Now before I lie back, I tuck my butt under, my sitting bones under, and I place my sacrum on top of the block. And then I lie over the bolster, and I take my arms over, and I can hold on to my elbows, or I can stretch my arms out. Now if your shoulders don't allow that, you can just open your arms out to the side a little bit. Now from here, we stay in this position for, well, I stay in this position for 3 minutes with my students. And we focus on breathing deeply into the pelvis. So instead of starting the breath diaphragm, rib cage, collarbones, I start the breath down here. So I inhale through the lower abdomen to the upper abdomen and the rib cage. As I exhale, I let the groins release. I let the buttocks release. So I'm inhaling, lower abdomen, upper abdomen, rib cage, and then exhaling, releasing the groins, releasing the buttocks. Letting my body relax and have a sense of just flopping over, releasing over the supports. Inhaling, lower belly, upper belly, rib cage. Exhaling, lower belly, upper belly, rib cage. So still following that complete yoga breath sequence of 3 parts. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, and then exhale, 1, 2, and 3. The breath is moving through you in a wave-like manner, relaxing the belly as you exhale, and when you inhale, you're stretching the diaphragm. We hold a lot of tension, anxiety in the diaphragm, so it's good when you breathe in deeply, you're stretching that diaphragm muscle. Exhale, let it release. So breathing deeply, creating space, and exhaling, releasing tension. Now we may have been here for almost a minute, and just for the sake of keeping the video short, I'm going to change my leg position, but I would like you to stay here for 3 minutes when you practice on your own. Stay in this for 3 minutes. You can pause the video and start the video at any time. So let's bring the knees together and change the cross-leg position at the ankles, and then drop the knees apart and start this deep breathing sequence again. And reset your timer for 3 minutes. And you will probably notice a difference in your hips, maybe your knees, maybe your ankles, maybe in your pelvis. You'll notice a difference when you change the cross-leg position of your ankles. So be aware of these differences. I forgot to mention that this is also a really good exercise for discomfort in the sacroiliac area. It works really well, especially if you hold it up to the 3 minutes that I've suggested. So 3 minutes in one position, 3 minutes in the other position. It's a total of 6 minutes in this pose. Inhaling, lower belly, upper belly, rib cage. Exhaling, lower belly, upper belly, and rib cage. Relaxing the groins. Relaxing the buttocks, relaxing the belly, now let's assume that you've been there for 3 minutes. The next thing we do is we bring the knees together, and then you're going to take this bolster, the block from underneath you. Take your bolster and now replace the bolster with the block underneath your sacrum. And if you don't know where it should be, there's a little tab on the side of your little handle on the side of your bolster. If you bend your knee, bring your hip here, if you bring your leg up, that tab should line up with the crease at your hip, and that's going to probably be the right spot for you, the sacrum in the middle of the bolster. And then you stretch your legs out, and you just take your arms in a comfortable position, because you're letting those shoulders drop back. You're getting some extension in your neck as well, and it's opening the heart. So now I'm stretching my legs, flexing my feet, and I'm pulling my knees into my legs because they've been bent. Now, if you have arthritis in your knees, you're going to feel this being bent and then opening. And when you open the knees like this after being bent for 6 minutes, you'll definitely feel this, and you definitely need to do this. So you stretch out, and now we're opening this area right here. So we're now focusing on the hip flexors. So you can stay here for about a minute, which would be 12 to 15 deep breaths. Then after you've done your 12 or 15 deep breaths, bring your right leg up, keep the left leg fully extended and flexed, and clasp your hands around the back of your right thigh and continue to draw the leg up towards your chest. So some people may be able to do this, but I don't suggest it if you're very tight, because then you'll be lifting your upper body. You want your upper body down. Just hold the back of the leg. The other thing is, if you do have knee problems, compressing the knee is not a good thing. So putting the hand behind the knee creates space in the knee joint. And this is not about your knees, it's about your hip flexors. So we're flexing the right side and we're stretching out the left side. And that's why it's important to keep your leg fully extended, push through the heel, pull the shoulders back, and take some deep breaths. Now I would stay here for a minute, another 12 to 15 breaths, depending on how deeply you breathe. And then after you've done that for a minute, you can stretch that leg out and then bring up the left, put your hand behind the thigh and draw the thigh into your chest and stretch the right leg completely. Now as you're doing this, try to keep your shoulders back, keep your chin down. You don't want to be lifting your chin and reaching forward. Try to not disturb the upper body while you're working your hip flexor, and keep your breath moving deeply. Inhaling, creating space. Exhaling, stretching the right hip flexor. Now, assuming you've done your 12 to 15 deep breaths, you release your hands from your left leg. You bring both knees up. And now you're going to, oh, my hair isn't my way. You're going to adjust the position of the bolster so that you feel that it's lifting the lower part of your hips. So you may want to move back just a little bit so you feel like your hips are lifting up with the bolster, and the legs just naturally come by their own weight to your chest. And you're not pulling, you're not tugging, you're just breathing deeply and allowing the low back to open up. And you stay here for as long as you need to. You can stay for a minute, you can stay for 6 breaths. Just relax and let the low back open. Now, if your back is super tight, you'll want to stay here longer. Now, assuming you've stayed here for a minute or so, now we start taking the legs over to the right and then over to the left. And you only go as far as you feel comfortable going. You don't push it, and you can increase the stretch, the rotation each time. Now when I take my legs to the left, I keep my right shoulder down, and when I go over to the right, I keep my left shoulder down. So I'm getting a spinal twist, and I'm getting a lovely stretch along the right side of my back from the hip all the way up to my shoulder. When I take my legs over to the left, I know when I take my legs to the right, I get a lovely stretch on the left side. So eventually the legs may come down to the floor, and if it feels really good and you need to hold that stretch for longer, then just stay there and breathe through it for as long as you need, and you keep your knees together, and all with balance by doing both sides evenly, repeating the same amount of rotations on either side. And if you're holding one side, you should probably hold the other side too. Then you come to the center when you're done, and I would take my legs back and forth, maybe, do it 6 to 8 times. You have to listen to your body, do what feels good. When you're done, push the bolster out, just flip it over and lengthen your legs and let your legs relax on the bolster and relax and breathe. And you can stay there, and I'm getting up while I talk to you. You can stay there if you like. Now this can be done as a part of a warm-up for your practice, or just as a practice in itself at the end of the day, at the end of your walk, or whenever you feel that you need it. I hope that's helped you. You can let me know in the comments below if you've enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer it if I can. Namaste.